Hi and welcome back to The Cottage. In today's video, I want to discuss the top 5 reasons we have such a difficult time letting go of our clutter. Before we get to today's topic, I do want to give a quick shout out to the winner of last week's 10,000 subscriber giveaway contest. There were 208 unique comments on that video, which blew me away. I was not expecting quite so many. So many of you have kind things to say, and I appreciated every one of your comments. I read through all of them. I think I commented on every single one of them. I was just so blessed by all the things that you had to say, all of the kind words that you had to give me. Thank you so much. I wish everybody could win the gift card, but alas, there's only one winner. I did enter all 208 names of the commenters into a random selector, and as you can see here, this is the person that was chosen. So if this is you, please reach out to me at the address that you'll see on the screen right now, and I'll also have it down in the description box, and we can chat back and forth about how you'd like to receive your prize. So get in contact with me. Congratulations on winning the giveaway, and thank you all again so much for entering. All right, let's talk about clutter. This is by no means a new topic of conversation here on this channel. I do cover it quite a bit, especially how it relates to getting rid of the clutter and living a more simple lifestyle. Our minimalism journey has brought us to a place where we're able to get rid of that excess and feel a sense of relief and calm and peacefulness within our more simple life. But I can talk so freely about these 5 reasons why it's difficult to get rid of clutter because we have experienced and continue to experience on some degree all 5 of these things. Clutter, as you remember, is when you start to feel overwhelmed by excess. Now, if we are surrounded by a lot of stuff and it doesn't bother us, it's not clutter to us. Once we have that realization that it's too much to manage, too much to take care of, it's getting in the way of the other things in our lives that we want to be doing and focusing on, that is when we have a clutter problem. It's tempting to think that once we recognize the problem, it should be very easy and clear-cut to just get rid of the clutter, wipe it out, and just move on with our lives, right? Unfortunately, that is just not the case, and it all comes back to what's going on right inside here. Many of the principles of minimalism and simple living have to do with a mindset shift and being able to control your mind and lead it in ways that are positive. As we know, our mind can work for us and it can also work against us. And when it comes to clutter, a lot of times our mind is really working against us. The first reason why it is so difficult for us to get rid of our clutter is because our minds are telling us that we have the space to keep it. Now, if you were to compare a home from the early 1900s all the way up to about the 40s or 50s with a home built more recently, I know this isn't the case everywhere, but here in the United States, our homes are getting larger and larger. Our families are not getting larger, and so there is a lot more space in our homes. We've got those huge garages, we've got large storage closets, we've got walk-in closets, lots of cabinetry in our kitchens. We might even have off-site storage in like a storage unit or something like that. And so it just seems so natural and so easy to say, well, it's not hurting anything because I have the space to keep it. Now, the problem with that is that even though those things are behind closed doors or they're tucked away out of sight, out of mind, we aren't even dealing with them on a regular basis, our subconscious mind knows that it's there. And so we're keeping this mental inventory going all the time, and it is actually really mentally exhausting. So I would encourage you, if you were having these type of thoughts, to reframe the question of, do I have enough space to keep these items, to instead, do I have enough mental space to keep these items? And when we step back and truly evaluate that question, it might become more clear that those items are taking up more mental energy than they are physical space. The next very common reason why we have a difficult time getting rid of clutter is because of plain old worry that we're going to need it sometime. Our brains start telling us that we are being resourceful and we are being thoughtful by keeping things around just in case, because we might need to use them in the future, even if we haven't used them for a long time in the past. And it's really a silly thought to have, to think that as soon as we would declutter something by either selling or donating or even throwing something away, that magically we are going to find a need for it. We experienced this in our own decluttering journey. When we first started out, we had an onion layer approach to the process because the thought of getting rid of all of the clutter that we had was too overwhelming. And so we did kind of peel away at it a little bit at a time. And during our first round of decluttering, there was a whole bunch of items that I used this thought process on. I'm going to keep these items just in case I might need them. Well, guess what? A few rounds of decluttering later, those items still had not been used, and that was proof to me that I really didn't need to keep them after all. These types of thoughts can be especially difficult for us to overcome because, again, we feel like we're doing our future selves a favor by holding on to this clutter. And so when you do have these types of feelings, I recommend two things. Number one, to think about the actual monetary value of the items that you're planning to keep. A lot of times the things that we choose to hold on to for those just in case scenarios are very low in value, and they could be easily replaced if that need arises. So for example, if you have some fabric, let's say, that you are holding on to thinking you might need in the future, you might want in the future, but you don't have any specific plan for it, if you actually tally up the amount of cost that it would be for you to replace those items if you were to get rid of them, you might find that that amount is worth it for you to free up the space in your home and in your life. The second thing that I recommend is to put these items on probation by giving them a time limit that you're allowing them to stay in your home, in your life. And so you'd find a bin or a box or a shelf in your closet where these items that are in question would go, and then you would set a boundary of how much time you are going to allow them to stay there without being used. Now that could be up to a year. I definitely say no more than a year. And if you're able to make that a shorter time frame, maybe a month or two, then that would be good as well. The idea is that once that time limit is up, if those items are still there having not been used, you can free yourself from that thought of needing them and get rid of them, declutter them for good with having a clear conscience. The good thing about this type of situation is that if you are new to decluttering and you're trying to get a feel for what you will need, how much you'll need of something, that those items are available if you should need them, but 9 times out of 10, you just won't need them at all. The third reason that clutter tends to stick around in our lives is because of a lack of time or energy to deal with it. Now, I've seen this one come up time and time again in the comment section from those of you who feel excited about minimalism, want to live a more simple lifestyle, but yet you either have a chronic illness that prevents you from having enough energy to deal with it on a regular basis, or you're a working parent that the last thing you want to do when you come home is to go through and declutter anything. And I totally understand this. I get where you're coming from. And the thing I want you to remember is that any little bit of progress is progress in the right direction. So if you are feeling excited about something, maybe you can only tackle a small little area at a time. That is completely okay. The awesome thing about decluttering is that it actually frees up time and energy as you go. It's sort of a snowball effect that happens. So you can start small in one little drawer and get that all organized, decluttered, and cleaned up. That's going to give you motivation, give you energy, and also give you some more time to work on other things. And once you get to the point where you've decluttered an entire room, you can imagine the extra time and energy that you will have. Now, in some situations, specifically for those people who are dealing with a chronic illness, I would definitely ask you to look into hiring somebody that can come in and help you with this process so that you don't get so worn out, because really decision fatigue is a real thing. And if you're dealing with that on top of also having a chronic illness where you are lacking energy, this can be an actual roadblock for you. And so hiring somebody that has that expertise and has that knowledge and can be with you throughout that journey would be very beneficial and worth it. Wanting to preserve memories or nostalgia is another really common reason why clutter tends to stick around in our lives. We have this thought that the item that we keep is going to hold those memories for us, and that even if we forget about them, as soon as we see these items or hold them, that we can be immediately transported back to this beautiful place and time and relive that memory once again. There's nothing wrong with keeping sentimental items that you cherish and love and can bring back those memories for you, but it's important to recognize that our lives are a whole series of memories and thoughts that are really kept inside of us, and they're not inside of that physical object. So if you're finding yourself faced with a lot of clutter that has to do with memories, maybe that's a box full of souvenirs from the vacations that you've taken, or some holiday ornaments that you've been holding on to for years and years and years because they've been passed down from generation to generation, just know that by eliminating that clutter from your lives, it doesn't mean that you are erasing that memory or that the moment in time didn't exist. A good rule of thumb that I like to use when keeping special memory items is to recognize that when everything is deemed as special, then nothing truly is. If you have an entire box filled with souvenirs, then they kind of all start to mesh together, blend together, and they're all just sort of trinkets. But if you just keep one of those special mementos, it becomes even more heightened. And so letting that one item represent the multitude is something that I like to do, and I think it could be really useful for you as well. And the final reason that I want to discuss of why clutter is so difficult to let go of is probably the most common on this list, and that is guilt. This guilt can come in a variety of ways. Perhaps we were gifted an item or we inherited something from someone, and even if we don't particularly like the item, we feel guilty if we let it go because we're not respecting that person's wishes or we're not fully accepting their gift. We can also put that guilt on ourselves if we spend a lot of money on something and then turns out we didn't end up using that item. We feel the guilt of wasting money. Sometimes this guilt is an internal feeling that we bring on ourselves, whether it's true or not. And sometimes that guilt comes from an outside source of somebody telling you that you shouldn't get rid of something for whatever reason, and so you hold on to it because of that guilt. If you are someone with clutter that has a lot of guilt attached to it, I want to let you know that by keeping those items around and in your presence, it's only going to make matters worse because those feelings of guilt are going to fester and you're going to start actually having some anger towards possibly the people that gifted it to you or that you inherited it from, and you're going to feel bogged down by this guilt. And so I want to give you permission today to make those decisions for yourself. You are the one that is making the decisions of what you keep and what you get rid of. And so that guilt is not something you need to keep in your life. Go ahead and let it go and move on. All right, well, I would be interested to know which of these 5 resonates most with you. Are you someone who has a lot of things that you keep around just in case? Are you somebody that harbors those guilt items? Whatever the case may be, again, no shame. I went through all 5 of these as well, and it's just part of the process. I hope that you are doing well in your decluttering journey. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope that you'll stop by the cottage again really soon.